own sanity. So I'd always kind of written a few novels along the way, kept them all on my computers, and every time the cricket season came round, I'd have to kind of scrap them because I'd no time to write them anymore. But all of a sudden, I had plenty more time, so I decided to crack on with it and got onto my first novel completed in 2019, published it in November time, Sunbeam. And then I just decided I want to keep going. I enjoyed it. I loved the process. It was a great process, and very therapeutic and really good fun. Then I started learning about the independent publishing side of things as well. Even enjoyed that. And I've got 2 more out since, and I'm now working on my 4th. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the first draft, and it's a great process, which I'm sure you understand as well, with your 2 that you've done so far.
Well, I do, yes. I've always been a bookworm, and I've ever since I sort of started to learn to write, I've been writing stories and things, but I made the classic author mistake of never actually finishing anything, never really knuckling down, because it's hard work, isn't it, actually?
Oh, sure.
Good fun starting things, but when you get to that sort of what writers call the saggy middle, and you sort of think, right, how am I going to keep it going now? It's hard work. And so I had lots of beginnings and plot ideas and things that I wrote sort of in my 20s and 30s. And looking back, they weren't very good because I'd not found my own voice. And then I got to 40 and I decided, well, it's now or never. And I think what was holding me back as well was fear of not being any good, because when you've got a dream and ambition, it's almost slightly off-putting trying to go for it, because you think, well, what if it just doesn't work? Then it's going to be disappointing. But I decided that I would join a writing course, which was Faber Academy's 6-month online writing a novel course. Okay. And I was thrilled to get accepted, because you actually had to apply and send in some samples of your work and things. So they didn't take everybody on. And so I told myself that my goal was to actually finish a novel. That's a bucket list thing in itself. But then, of course, when I did finish it, that wasn't enough. So I wanted to see it published. And I really admire you for going on the self-publishing side, because my husband does that. And I know it's so much work being a project manager and doing all the business side, the art side, the just laying it all out yourself and all that. So I thought, well, I need some help with that, really. And I applied to submitted to lots of agents and things, and like all of us, got quite a lot of rejections. But then finally one small indie Red Door press said yes, and I was absolutely bowled over, because I sent the usual letter and synopsis and 3 opening chapters. The evening, I think it was a Thursday, and the Friday I got an email back saying, can you send the rest? And I thought, what is this, a joke? Because somebody hacked my email just to be really cruel. But no, and then it was sort of like a 2 or 3 weeks wait to hear back from them, because it was actually August 2019, I think it was. And the lovely publisher had gone on holiday, but I didn't know that. I just sort of sat thinking, oh, she probably doesn't like it, or, she's not got to the end because she can't face reading anymore. But fortunately, that wasn't the case. So I just wanted to ask you, Mark, to be nosy, because a lot of sports writers, when they write books, actually do autobiographies and non-fiction. So how come you went down the fiction route instead?
Well, it was presented as a kind of option to do biographies with people and work with people on their biographies. I know a lot of people who have done that and have done it very successfully, but it didn't really appeal to me, to be truthful. I've kind of spent my career writing about other people and writing for other people. So now I just decided to be a bit more selfish and write something that I really wanted to write. And like yourself, I felt the need to challenge myself to actually get a novel finished. and to and to get it published. I just had this thought of holding the book in your hand when it comes through the post, the first one, and saying, yes.
You just can't believe it, can you?
It's a wonderful feeling. Yeah.
It's
a wonderful
feeling.
It's tremendous. It's a real thrill. It's a complete thrill to just be utterly responsible for the creation of something. Is wonderful. Even if you have help along the way from a publisher and such like that, it's still your baby, isn't it? It's your project completely.
And it's amazing to think that what was just a concept in your head is now a physical reality, and there's a copy in the British Library. So
wow,
if, in the future you're, in 200 years when your forebears, that's not the right word, is it? Your great grandkids or whatever, they can go and look you up and find out what you wrote.
Yeah. I want to pick up on what you were saying there about the vulnerability that you feel when before you finish the process and such, and even when you do finish the process, you still feel completely vulnerable, don't you? You're thinking that nobody's going to like it, everybody's going to think it's ridiculous. How did you feel when you saw your first reviews of your first novel? How did that make you feel?
Well, I was lucky because I got some really good reviews, but maybe it's because it's a small readership, so nobody's blasted me yet. I'm in a group with called the D20 Authors on Facebook, and it's a group of us who all debuted in 2020. I've just seen a message on the cat. Karen can only hear me, not see me. Can you see me, Mark?
I can see you.
All right, so I don't know what's going on with your Zoom, Karen, I'm afraid. But anyway, so there's in that group, there are some really best-selling authors in there who've done incredibly well and have their books in Tesco and been Sunday Times bestsellers and things. But they've been trolled and sort of
really?
had awful, like 1-star review, like, this is a romance and I don't like romances, ridiculous things like that.
Don't read it then.
Yes, exactly. Well, I don't like this character, so I'm going to give it 2 stars. Well, you're not don't have to like a character. But yes, it's I've had some brilliant reviews, and with my second book, I was interviewed for the Love Reading Lit Fest.
Right.
I don't know if you know, there's Love Reading UK. It's a book website, and I also had my novel reviewed on there, and I was called the Tsarina of Twists.
Oh, there we go.
I like that one. I love that. The Tsarina. Here lies the Tsarina of Twists. So what's the best review you've had, Mark?
I don't know if I could pick out one particular review, but I think the one that always sticks in your mind and the one that really means the most is the first you get from someone you don't know.
Yes, someone who isn't your mum.
Yes, absolutely. Somebody who's no vested interest in saying nice things to you at all. If I was said before I started out, that would be the measure of my success, to get a review from somebody who doesn't know me, has no reason to say nice things at all, but still reads the book and enjoys it. And I do remember when I first saw that one on Amazon, and I thought, now, bless you, whoever you are, I want to go around to you now and give you a big kiss.
Oh.
I just hope it wasn't a bloke.
Yeah. But interesting what you were saying though about vulnerability, because I did feel very vulnerable when I was first submitting, but even though I've been published twice, that hasn't gone away, because as an author, you're only really as good as your last book. So every time you write something new, there's that feeling, is anybody going to like it? And particularly when you write genre fiction like we do, it's getting something that's the same but different. So you don't want to end up with a formula or use the same tricks that you did in the last novel. You want readers to find something new. So I keep thinking, have I pulled that off? How's it going writing book number 4? How have you thought of something different from your previous three? And I must talk to you about your second one, which I've read, which, oh my word, the ending. But we'll do that in a bit.
Yeah, I think you do just have to try and develop different kind of ideas. And I know some people make a very good living from being the authors of series and such like that, don't they? And keeping the same characters and developing different stories with the same characters and such. And I can no, full respect to people that do that, but I don't want to do that personally. I'd rather leave one book behind and take on something completely different. And all mine have go along similar lines. They're all quite fast paced, and they have plenty of plot twists and such like that. And they've all been set against the backdrop of Sheffield so far, which is just became my thing, I guess. But they are all completely different. The fourth one's going to be different again. The fourth one's going to be more of a murder mystery than the others. But I just think it's part of whether it's part of just finding yourself as a writer, or part of just constantly challenging yourself as a writer. I think I just get the feeling that's a healthy place to be. Did you feel the same with taking on the second one? The second one is always supposed to be the difficult one, isn't it?
It was for me. I did get second book syndrome. I did have that little gremlin sitting on my shoulder saying, well, you managed to pull off one book, but that's all you've got in you. And the second book is different construction from the first. It's sort of in two halves. The first half is from the perspective of one character, and the second is from the perspective of another. So I deliberately wanted to do that to challenge myself, but I thought, will it work? I don't know. It did, thank goodness. But I'm writing my third now, and I'm a bit behind on my self-imposed schedule.
Right.
I haven't got a contract yet for this one, and so I want to get cracking on it. But this is going to be written from multiple perspectives, which again is a new challenge for me. You set your books in Sheffield, Mark. My first book was set in Yorkshire. I'm actually from Yorkshire myself, Doncaster originally, just down the road from Sheffield.
Indeed.
My second book I deliberately didn't set it anywhere because I wanted people to imagine that it could be their locality. So the setting wasn't as important as it was in the location wasn't as important it was in the first one. But this is the Middleway Words Festival, so it's to celebrate Midlands authors. So why do you think it's important that we hear from voices and we read about places outside of London?
I think the simple answer to that is that most people don't live in London. So it makes complete sense to me. Why would anything be so London centric and the way you work? I think the old maximum is that you write about what you know. Don't you? And I agree with that only to a limited extent. I think you've got to push yourself when you're writing as well to learn new things and to develop yourself as a writer by learning as well. I saw I think it was Malcolm Bradbury. He gave a talk. He used to teach a course in America, and said that his students were all 18, 19, 20 and from the same kind of background. And so he couldn't tell them to write about what they know because they knew not. So what he told them was to approach writing like you're an investigative journalist. Go and find out, go and learn. So I did that. My second book, Family Business, was about the haulage business. I knew nothing about the haulage business. So I went and spent 2 days with a haulage company to find out how they work and what they do and all the little nitty-gritty stuff about not being part of an haulage business. So So you stick to, I stick to Sheffield as my backdrop because it's in my mind, and I can use that as my base color, and then add on all the layers as I choose fit along with in my plot. But Sheffield is always my base color because I know it, and I can visualize my plots as they develop in the city. That's the only reason I do. But surely we should be writing for people who live in the places we know. We should always reflect that, shouldn't we? A lot of people live outside
We
London.
should, because, as you say, not everybody lives in London, and not everybody wants to read about living in Notting Hill or wherever. I think that the publishing industry should respect the fact that people do want to read about their own localities, and there are big readerships outside of London, and I think it's very forward thinking now that some of the major public publishing companies are opening offices in the regions, though it's a bit patronizing to say the regions, isn't it, really? But I hope that opens up publishing to more people, and it's not just a little bit of lip service. Do you feel disadvantaged because you're not in London and you're not part of the media gang, and you don't live next door to somebody who's well connected at the BBC or wherever?
Hey, wouldn't that be nice? That'd come in very handy, I must say. That would come in very handy. I would welcome that with open arms. But
foxes between the covers show, and that would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
It would be nice, but I don't know, disadvantaged or whatever. I don't really know that, because you've got the card, you've got the hand you're dealt with, aren't you? And you have to try and find out the ways of filling in the gaps in your own little circle of contacts. I've worked a lot with regard to contacts all through my career, so I understand the value of that. But when you haven't got them, you just got to find people, haven't you? So.
And I think that's how festivals like this and being part of the Society of Authors really helps, because you get to know other people in the area, and when you do get to know other authors, then you can all club together and
they are a tremendous group. Together. Absolutely. The society has been an absolute godsend. Without being a member of the society, I don't think I would have got off the ground as far as self-publication goes. I went to a meeting in Nottingham where a fella from Amazon came and talked and said, well, all you need to do to get self-published is do this, and this. I wrote down notes and thought, oh, I can do that. But if you haven't got a publisher, that's the way you've got to go. You can't wait around forever to attract a publisher, and even though you'd like to think one comes along eventually. But
and I guess there are quite a lot of benefits to self-publishing as well, because you're in control. I mean, look at LJ Ross. She's made well, I was going to say a fortune. I've not seen a bank balance, so I'm just imagining that. But she's done incredibly well self-publishing, and she's in control. She doesn't get a cover forced on her that she doesn't want, and she can do her own marketing and things, and I guess keep a bigger share of the profits. So yeah, a lot to be said for it.
Well, that's the upside. The downside is that that you don't have the contacts within the bookstores and within the promotion and such like that. So it is hard work as an independent publisher, as an independent author, trying to get the message out there that you have written a book, and that of all the many thousands that are out there waiting for people to read, they should read yours because it's rather good or whatever. I do tell people it's like standing in a very crowded hall where all the people represented by the big publishers have got megaphones and loud hailers, and you're pushed into a quiet corner there saying, anybody wants to read mine? Yeah. It feels like that sometimes.
I'm with a small indie, and they're brilliant. It's a 3-woman band. And it's difficult for them to get the books in sort of big bookshops, it's not impossible because the major chains want big discounts. They want volume, and Penguin or somebody can print thousands and thousands of books at a cheaper price, but indie publishers can't. So I know a lot of it is reliant on wonderful independent bookshops who know that they can't make a huge profit out of selling, the chart books, because people are sadly going to go to WH Smith's or Tesco where it's half price. And so they really specialize on finding different kind of novels that you won't get in those major retailers. And certainly Kenilworth Books, my nearest indie bookshop, has been fantastic in championing me and supporting me and giving me the thrill of going in and signing books every now and again and thinking, wow, I'm signing a book. I want to buy myself a special signing pen with my name on it, I think, rather than a scrappy biro off.
I think you should. Is it? I imagine it's quite good working with a small indie publisher like that, where you can get personal care. Really, I always imagine is the big benefit of working with an indie publisher.
It is. I mean, I've had a fantastic experience, and I've felt part of the team rather than just somebody that's brought in every now and again. And I know again from talking to people who are with one of the big four, is it 5 or 4? I think there was a merger or something, wasn't there? That they can feel that they don't know what's going on because all these decisions are made for them, and then they hear that it's out in this bookshop or something and they weren't told. And some of them have said that even if you're with a big publisher, unless you're one of the chosen few to get that they've decided are going to be the books of the year and get all the marketing support, then they can feel sort of like they've gone by the wayside. But so I don't feel that with my publisher at all. But I guess the drawback is that if you're looking for a big advance, you're not going to get one. And again, a small publisher has not got the clout to get you in, Tesco, Sainsbury's, wherever. Although I've had, so it's been up to me to try and get it in some branches of Waterstones, and people have been very supportive. I went in yesterday to Leamington Waterstones and signed a few, and the lovely manager there said that she's going to order in some more and give me a table. I'm getting a table in Waterstones. That is just a dream come true. So individual shops have been really helpful, but with a small indie, unless you win a prize or something, which is, another dream, then you're not going to be automatically on their stock buying list.
No,
but,
absolutely.
I'm just really thrilled with what I've got.
So, that's it. It's lovely, and it's the more you go along, the more you write. When we get into that 3rd, 4th, 5th novels, and you're going to develop a cult following. So it'll take care of itself then, won't it?
I think the dream is just to keep going. My ambition, apart from like being a Richard and Judy pick or something like that, which is aiming rather high, I just want to keep going. And as long as people keep enjoying my books, and like you say, people who don't know you send you a message or write a review saying, I really enjoyed this. It gave me a wonderful break in the day, sort of thing. Then that's what I keep wanting to do.
That's it. That's why we do it in the end. Really, it's one thing I wanted to ask you about, Penny, is that I know you've been a strong supporter of greater disability representation, and I'm interested. Are disabled people underrepresented or wrongly represented, not only in novels but on kind of on TV, in films and such like that?
Oh, both. Certainly both. I'm in my 40s now, and every few years there's a sort of news article that will say disability representation is changing. Look, there's been somebody disabled in EastEnders, woohoo, or a disabled model's gone on the catwalk, and then that ends, and then nothing, and then a few years later, woohoo, it's all happening again. There's no sort of systematic systemic change.
Yeah, systemic. Yeah.
Yes, I was because I was born with a rare physical disability out of the blue, and always been a bookworm, and I spent a lot of time in hospital, and I guess there's not much you can do when you're stuck in bed. So I always love reading, but when I was reading books, there was never anybody like me in them. If you think of the two examples I always give are Heidi and The Secret Garden. Heidi, where is it Clara magically sort of begins to walk again because she's in a fresh mountain air. And then Secret Garden, where I can't remember the character's name, but there's a little lad who was stuck in bed and he goes outside and he starts to walk again, way, because he's trying hard, but then he dies. So he can be the emotional part of the novel. So he's got to go. And I do remember, actually, I was in Sheffield Children's Hospital just recovering from an operation and reading My Secret Garden. And for a very, very short amount of time, I thought, oh, is that going to happen to me? You know, am I going to sort of get some fresh, am I suddenly going to be able to magically walk one day? And then, you know, I was old enough to think, nah, what a load of crock. So, I mean, but what if I internalized that? What if I thought, well, I'm not because I don't believe in God enough, or I'm not good enough because I've been naughty, or I'm not trying hard enough, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I loved and I know that Enid Blyton is sort of a bit controversial these days, but I loved those books. I wanted to be in the famous five. I wanted to go on adventures in my wheelchair, and I wanted to go to Mallory Towers, and I wanted to invent wheelchair lacrosse. I wanted to be in stories where somebody happens to have a disability, but it's not about disability. It's not worthy. And those are the stories that you don't find. And then certainly in adult literature, it's few and far between. I mean, Scope, the disability charity, says that 1 in 5 people in the UK have some sort of disability or chronic illness, but you just don't see it around. It's just not there. And I think that representation for some other groups, such as religion, race, sexuality, is coming on far more quickly than it is for disability. That's not to say that anybody's in competition. We're not. I hope that we all get the recognition that we should have, that because we are a part of society. But back to sort of disability in adult books, it tends to be sort of misery memoirs, how awful it is and tragic it is to have a disability, or some sort of triumph over tragedy where you've got something to prove, that you've got to do something amazing to show the world that just because you're disabled doesn't mean you're not a person. And the example I give is that I don't want to climb Everest, thank you. If I did, if that would just happen to be my thing, I would go and do it. But it's not. I want to sit down and drink wine and watch Netflix with my husband. I have nothing to prove. That could be me, like everybody else does. And that's why in my books, I've got disabled characters in there. It's not a story. They're just there. And I try and make sure that I represent different other aspects of society, whether that's sort of income, sexuality, skin color, things like that, too, because we live in a diverse society. And I write in the present day, so it should be.
Well, that's what we're supposed to be reflecting, isn't it? We're supposed to be reflecting society, and there are people of different races, religions, sexualities, whatever. It's if you're going to write an accurate book, it's got to reflect that in society as well, isn't it? Really, why not? It shouldn't be an effort, really, should it?
It shouldn't.
But it's too easy to slip into lazy ways of just having almost all your characters are almost like yourself, aren't they? It's too easy.
Or not doing your research. So if you are, like you said, that when you did the haulage, you went and spent 2 days there, you did your research, you didn't just imagine what it might be. So I think too many people, if they're writing disability, or even, you know, somebody who isn't like them, They just write stereotypes and haven't actually made an effort to actually find out what those people's lives are like and how they might want to be represented. That doesn't mean that you can't have a plot that perhaps shows somebody in a negative light or somebody not a very nice person or whatever, but it just means to show you've got to actually do your research to show that you aren't just pushing out some faded stereotype.
Absolutely. It shouldn't be an issue these days. It's one of these things that really is an issue still, but it really shouldn't be at all. We should have moved way beyond that by now, shouldn't we?
We should have done. Now, before we go to questions, Mark, I read your second novel. I'm keeping your other two for my holiday because, I don't want to read them all at once because then what would I have to look forward to? Well, Family Business, it was great. And the ending, I'm not going to give anything away, but that was you really wrong-footed me there. And it was a brilliant example of sort of twists in a thriller. It was fantastic. The novel, the main character is a chap called Graham. Now, I'm being cheeky because some of what we find out in the plot started out in Graham's university days.
Oh dear.
So what I want to know is, did you draw from your own life experience with Graham?
Yes, I'm afraid so. I didn't go as far as Graham. I didn't get into quite the level of trouble that Graham got into, thankfully. But two of the key incidents that he goes through in the book did happen to me, I'm afraid.
Right. Was it the one about drinking too much?
Yep. Most of my experiences in university revolved around drinking too much.
Did you go to a concert?
Went to a concert in Leeds. It was Lindisfarne as well.
Right, are they the two? Have I guessed them right?
Yes, the party that ended up drinking far too much punch and trying to convince everybody that it wasn't actually having any effect whatsoever until I almost fell over. That was right. And the other one was the concert.
Right.
Which ended for me better than it did for him, shall we say, without giving.
Yes, I didn't want to really go into private life, but that's good. So we're going to move on to questions now.
Yes.
Martin's asked, so I'll ask you first, Mark. Who's your favourite author and favourite book? Why has the author influenced you?
Oh my Lord, I always find this a really difficult question to answer because I read so many different authors. I think currently, if I was to say currently, I'd say it's either Linwood Barclay, or I can devour anything he writes, or completely different to him, really, Jonathan Coe, a great Birmingham writer. I think he's fantastic. He makes me laugh a lot. I think he's wonderful. But Linwood Barclay, I guess, is the kind of writer of books that we write as well. But Jonathan Coe isn't. Jonathan Coe's different. I think it's important that you are able to read authors of different genres and enjoy them as well. And he's certainly one. I'd love to be able to write like Jonathan Coe, but I don't think I'd have the courage to. What about yourself? Are you on that?
I like reading people like Ruth Ware. I'm just looking around at my bookshelf there. Other thriller writers. My favourite book of last year actually was Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell.
Okay.
I thought I knew that Shakespeare had a son who died, and I can't believe that I never actually thought of writing a novel about it, although mine would have been very different because it probably would have been a how did he die, not a sort of wonderful lyric prose that Maggie did. But I like reading new authors as well. Catherine Cooper, she's written a new one's just come out, The Chalet, and I read that before it came out to give her a quote, and that is fantastic because what I like that she does is that she no spoiler alerts, but she doesn't tend to go in for happy endings. So I like the fact that she doesn't go with the sort of the usual template, really. There's another question here.
Yeah.
Did you find that your publishers wanted you to confirm there would be another book? Well, I guess you published.
Well, this is one for you, yeah.
For me, they are interested, very interested, but I haven't written it yet. So I've got to write it first, and hopefully that I will carry on. But it's very much, you are as good as the quality of what you've just written, really. Now, I'm just rushing through. Mark, you've been self-published so far. If you were offered a contract with a big publisher, would you want to let go of control of your books? And I would just imagine off the top of my head, it depends how big the check was.
Well, no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't, honestly, it wouldn't. What I'm looking for, I am looking to find a publisher. I would like to have a publisher on my side, purely because I don't know how to sell books well enough. And I was in life of the philosophy that that we all have different skills, and there are lots of other people out there who have different skills again. And so if I have an electrical problem in my house, I'm going to call in an electrician. I'm not going to suddenly want to learn how to how to make the wires work or anything like that. I'm going to call in somebody qualified. So I've got the same philosophy with my writing. I believe I can write, but I don't know anything about enough. I don't know enough about the rest of the process of marketing and developing an audience. I don't know enough about that. So the big attraction for me with finding a big publisher, a small publisher, or whatever, would be taking on board somebody else's knowledge and working together as a team. As I said before, working as an indie can be difficult. So that's what I would certainly give up control of my books under that kind of arrangement. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Looking on the long term.
There's a question for me come in. This is a bit of an old joke. It says, Penny, how are you getting on with writing His Old Grandad's Budgie? That's from Karen Louise Hollis. When I had my online book launch, which was with my fellow Red Door author, E.C. Scullion, we had a competition for people to come up with a good title for my next book, and that was the one that won. So I haven't started it yet, Karen, but I think it's going to be a children's book with that kind of title. Last question is from Fran. How have you found the process of marketing yourselves and your work? Are there aspects you find more difficult? So you
have to market as well, don't you? You have to market your books as well. You're working with a small indie, you have to be part of that marketing. So you can certainly give it some input into this one as well.
Yes, it takes a lot of time that I would probably rather spend writing, but I do enjoy doing events like this and meeting other authors, being part of the community, because it's quite a lonely profession, really. You've got to like being quite solitary to be a writer, but I do have an extrovert. I'm probably an extroverted introvert, so I do really much enjoy doing author events and chatting to other people, and I learn so much more about the craft and how other people have found writing by doing events. And it's just time consuming. It's social media. It's I guess like a bit of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So if you retweet other people's successes and things, they'll help you, and it's about being part of the writing community.
That's it. Community is the thing. Yeah, absolutely. And the events are brilliant, aren't they? We've desperately missed being able to go out to events, going to libraries, going to wherever, schools, book groups and such. We've desperately missed that for the last 18 months. And can't wait for that to pick up.
From the accessibility point, that for me, because it's hard for me to get out, Zoom and things have been a godsend. So I've got a monthly column in the Bookseller magazine, And I've been sort of campaigning and advocating for festivals in the future to be hybrid. So I can appear if I want to, Zoom in like they do on news nights, but so make it much more accessible to readers as well, because we all can't travel or have the money to go on a train and then pay for a ticket and buy lunch out and have a hotel room or whatever. And I think it democratizes reading as well. It can be quite, if you've not been to a festival before, it can be quite disconcerting because you wonder if it's a bit of a gang, a bit of a clique.
Yes, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, our time's nearly up. We've had a great time, and we hope you enjoyed it. Our thanks go to Marilyn, Felicity and Ignati, the festival organisers, to all the bookshops and supporters who have spread the word, and of course to all of you for signing up and watching. If you want to get in touch with me, Penny Batchelor, you can do via my website, which is pennybatchelor.co.uk. You can chat to me on Twitter, which is at penny_author. Instagram, I'm at Penny Batchelor Author, and Facebook, I'm at Penny Author, because Penny_author had gone. My ebooks are available from your usual ebook retailer and paper books from your favourite bookshop. But please do support independent bookshops if you can. You can buy copies of my novels, My Perfect Sister and Her New Best Friend, from Kenilworth Books, and signed copies, and the online bookshop Fox Lane Books. And just a quick heads up that I'll be taking part in an author panel at Kenilworth Library on 6th of October, organised by Warwickshire Libraries as part of their Library Week celebrations. So keep your eye out on my website for more details of how to get your ticket. And Mark, quickly, your chance now to do your bit of a plug.
Well, if mine are all available on Amazon, excuse me, and the real delight about having such an unusual surname is I'm very easy to find. I can guarantee you won't order a book by a different Mark Eklid, because there isn't another one. I've checked. There's no others in the world. It's just me. So if you find a book that says it's got my name on it, then it's mine. You can find them on Amazon, or contact me on Facebook or on Twitter. And if you'd like me to come around and talk at your wedding bar mitzvah or whatever, then I'm available at very reasonable rates. Actually, nothing.
I think we should do a double act, Mark. I think we work quite well.
I think so. I think so. I think we could.
Large. French and sausage. I don't know. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Been lovely talking to you.